This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. October 10th is World Mental Health Day, and this year we are saying thank you to therapists. BetterHelp therapists have helped over 5 million people worldwide on their mental health journeys. That's millions of stories and millions of journeys. Behind each one of them is a therapist who showed up, listened, and helped someone take that next step forward. Moments in therapy, like asking the right questions, having a safe place to get emotional or cry, or small wins, they can change lives. This World Mental Health Day, BetterHelp is honoring those connections and the therapists who make them possible while showing how easy it is to get guidance from a licensed therapist online with BetterHelp. I've been doing therapy for over 2 years and I couldn't recommend it enough. It's helped me so much with relationships with my friends, families, even myself. It's helped me understand myself better, and it's just made for such a better life. It really has. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. And it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for live sessions based on over 1.7 million client reviews. This World Mental Health Day, we are collaborating with those therapists who have helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off of their first month at BetterHelp.com/PFF. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PFF. Denver Broncos traveled to the Philadelphia Eagles and handed them the first loss of the season. Denver wins this game 21-17. You know, looking back on it, if Denver doesn't blow that game to the Colts, the Broncos would have the two most impressive wins in the NFL in Philly and Indianapolis.
Yeah, you could argue it. I mean, New England's up there with that win in Buffalo.
It's true. It's true.
That might be number one.
But like the Broncos would be in the conversation for having two of the best wins in the league so far. 5 weeks through the season.
They'd be in first place, and they had a lead on the Chargers late.
Just saying.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Top 5 great players that we have for the Denver Broncos, though, in this game. Offensive guard Quinn Miners, 80.0. Edge rusher Nick Bonito, 3 games in a row now with a sack, 79.4. Wide receiver Cortland Sutton, who clearly never skips arm day, as you can see in the picture there, 76.0. Cornerback Jaquan McMillan, with a 71.8. Tight end Evan Ingram with a 68.3. Bo Nix in this one, a 70.7. On Philly side of things, edge rusher Josh Uche, an 88.6. Offensive guard Tyler Steen with an 84.4. Offensive tackle Lane Johnson, 81.2. Wide receiver Devontae Smith, an 80.5. Linebacker Jahad Campbell, a 75.6. And Jalen Hurts, who also doesn't skip arm day. Should mention that. 80.5.
700-pound squat, too, or whatever it is, right?
That's why the tush push always works, man. So it's so funny. Everybody's just like, why don't we just do the tush push? And then you watch other teams do it, and you go, oh, that's why. We don't have a quarterback.
weight room, yeah. Yeah, if there's any
moving that much iron in the weight room.
Yeah, if there's any Carolina Panthers fans asking why you don't do that, there is a difference.
There is a difference.
Anyway.
Stat that told the story. What do we got?
This is just not the same Eagles offense as last year.
No, it is not.
I think it's just, when you talk about 11 designed runs, and one of them was a kneel down, and I think another one was called back due to a holding.
Saquon had 1 carry in the second half.
Yeah. Officially, yeah, he got. There was another one negated because of a holding, but
official carries.
But I just think about, that's exactly what I think about. Is I go, this is the one team in the NFL last year that ran more than they threw it, and they had a lead in this game.
Yeah,
and
no, it didn't. This game felt like we got to make the wide receivers happy game.
Yeah,
right.
And the problem is you're playing this defense, and the Broncos secondary hadn't been playing great, but they shadowed Surtain on A.J. Brown. They basically shadowed Riley Moss on Devontae Smith, which they took advantage of a couple of times, right? And a couple of 3 or 4 times they used Goddard on the flat and the RPO look. But there was just no offensive plan in this game. It's just, okay, the Broncos are going to run a lot of man, and we got some go balls. The wheel to Barkley out of the backfield was the best play call of the day, and that put them up 17-3. And at that point, you go, okay, we're going to run the football, right? Up 17-3, Trev. They called 8 straight passes on their next 2 drives. Up 17-3.
Again,
this team was last year, the best thing about this team, other than just blanketing the run game and the offensive line and all that, the best thing about this team last year was they had a closer. And they knew when they got to the fourth quarter with a lead, that last year, this game, halfway through the third with a 14-point lead, the game was over. You could shut the TV off. They're just refusing to run the football. They're refusing to. It's not that they can't, Barkley, the handful of times that he got to, looked solid. They're 10 design runs for an entire game. That's not Eagles football. That's not anybody's football, to be honest with you. This is stuff that I complained about, say, last week with the Arizona Cardinals, who are struggling. The Eagles right now, the only consistent thing they have going for them on offense, and this is, to me, this is a page right out of the Chiefs playbook last year. The only thing right now we know they can do consistently, they just don't give the football away. They're tied with the Chiefs for the fewest giveaways in football. Other than just straight up not turning the football over, they don't do much of anything well right now. And it's in large part because now they're choosing not to when it comes to the run game.
It's just very strange that they would not run again, I'm not kidding when I say that this felt like a game where they felt like they had to get their wide receivers involved. And maybe they thought to themselves, hey, we're up 17-3. We have a buffer now. So let's just throw the ball and get AJ some catches. Let's get Devontae some catches. Let's get Jahan Dotson some catches. Let's just get these guys some catches. Why else would you call 8 straight pass plays? What are we doing? You got Saquon Barkley. The offensive line was playing well.
The other thing that
Philly's offensive line played well, even without Landon Dickerson. When Landon Dickerson went out, I thought the offensive line played really well.
Tyler Steen was right up there. Yeah.
And I can also understand, they were pass protecting well against Denver's defensive line, which is impressive. So, maybe we just keep trying to pass the ball. But I would have leaned more into that and said, hey, we're handling Denver's defensive line. Run the ball. Run the football. I don't know. This was one of those games where, look, I think some of this gets overblown because it's Philly and because it's Nick Sirianni. And obviously they're the reigning champs, so everything's going to be under a microscope. But, this was also something last year. I think some of these narratives get a little bit overblown, but I don't really understand what happened yesterday with Philly other than they tried to make their wide receivers happy. I don't know what the thought process was outside of that. I don't know. Because if you want to say that Denver's secondary had been struggling this year, that's fine. But you got up. You were up 17-3. If this was the game plan for them right out of the gate, fine. I can understand at least how you got to that point. But you were up 17-3 in this game. The script flips to, okay, we are up multiple scores in this game now. We have Saquon Barkley and an offensive line that is absolutely kicking their ass. Let's get after it. Let's shorten this game, and let's get out of here with a win. And it felt like they were no, we've got a buffer now. Let's start throwing some go balls.
Oh, it felt like a lack of urgency,
Let's just try to get these guys. It felt like they felt like they were playing with house money, and they got bit for it at the end.
Yeah, and it should say a lot to me about their offense that when Sean Payton did have a chance to tie and instead elected for 2 to go up 18-17, think about what that says. Because that's with about, 7-8 minutes to go in the game, right? Think about what that says. That's not just Sean Payton getting a lead. That's, if we don't get this, we'll make a stop anyway. We'll be fine.
How about Sean Payton going for 2?
I mean, seriously, I just that to me says something more disrespectful about Philly's offense than it does even about him getting a lead with 8 minutes left. And he never does that. He doesn't do that. That tells me he knew he was getting a stop. He absolutely that Philly was not scoring, no chance. And if that's what we're looking at, again, that's the one redeeming thing about Philly's offense right now is that they don't turn the football over. But right now they look like last year's Chiefs, where we all know something's wrong. And one of these days it's going to get them. Maybe it won't be all the way till the Super Bowl, just like last year's Chiefs. But they can't play with this lack of urgency and this lack of balance. They just cannot.
Yeah, I agree. Lack of balance is a big issue in this one. I thought Courtland Sutton was awesome in this game.
Yep.
I wasn't able to find exactly what his receiving grade and receiving numbers were when Quinyon Mitchell was on him, but he had a fantastic day even with when Quinyon Mitchell was on him in coverage. So he was fantastic, a 76.4 overall receiving grade. He was the wide receiver one that they needed him to be, and he has been through a couple of games so far this season. I think that, myself included, you go into this season with Denver and you say, okay, like Courtland Sutton, he's a good wide receiver. Is he enough to be their wide receiver one that they might need him to be every single week? And I actually do think that he has lived up to that billing. Now, I'm not saying that he's a tier 1 wide receiver, but even a game like this is awesome to know he has the capabilities to do this. So when Courtland Sutton is playing like that, it opens everything else up. It opens up the other receivers. It opens up the run game. It opens up the tight end passing game. When you have that wide receiver 1 that the other team has to say, all right, we're going to put our best cover corner on this guy, or you go, all right, we're going to put our best cover corner on this guy, but he still needs help. Okay, we're going to shift the safeties over a little bit more. Now you're changing the whole game plan. Now you have a defense on their heels. So it all starts with when Courtland Sutton is playing really well. And then the Eagles cornerbacks. I agree with you. I know this is the most disappointing for you, but they were just not as good in this game as they have been in games earlier this season.
And that's after the game last week against Tampa Bay that I thought Quinyon Mitchell was best
They were
player.
fantastic.
He was the best player on the field.
And that's corner. That's playing corner,
yeah.
Right? You're good day, bad day. There is no position where you could have a good game, bad game, and it be as fluid as it is a corner.
Yeah.
But
I'm not as worried. I'm not worried at all, really, about Quinyon long term. It's more that other spot, though, we have seen between Adoree Jackson and Kaylee Ringo, where it has been more of a struggle. And you wonder eventually, and I know, again, we talk about the Eagles' offensive issues a lot, but you wonder eventually if they start sniffing the trade market or some sort of acquisition for another corner on that other side. Or
haven't thought of that.
Or you mess with the alignments and you mess around with Cooper DeJean a little bit more in an inside and outside role, a la Trent McDuffie, because he's playing exclusively in the slot, and that's the structure of the defense. But is that going to continue to be a problem on the other side away from Mitchell?
Anything else before we move on?
Most impressive. I look, the one guy who shows up every week up front for Denver, Nick Bonito's a freak of nature, man.
He's awesome.
He is a freak of nature. He got the contract extension. He
Nick
got 3
Bonito
sacks in this game.
He's making a lot of draft prospects in this upcoming class some more money this year, because there's a lot of DPR. There's a lot of designated pass rushers that are coming through this 2026 draft class specifically that I think you are just going to hear so many analysts and even teams go, yeah, but look at Nick Bonito.
But even if a player like that doesn't end up the superstar that Bonito is, if you can rush the passer, you have a place in the NFL. Of
course, right.
Because every team needs them, and they need more than just 3 or 4 of them. You get teams now rolling 6, 7, 8 deep on these defensive lines. I think that's really the lesson to me here. And I know traits are the traits, and arm length and height and weight and all that stuff. But if you know how to rush the passer, there is a place for you somewhere in the league for sure. He's just taken as full an advantage of it as he possibly can. What an unbelievable player he is.
I mean, we just talked about James Houston though too.
Yep.
Somebody in the chat. I assume that they're a Cowboys fan, saying that like James Houston almost got cut from this team. And
right.
Now he's out here having a major impact just because the one thing that he does really well is just rush the passer. And if you could do that, let's say you get 5-6 sacks a year. Those 5-6 plays could be huge when it comes to swinging who wins and who loses a game. So the NFL is always going to try to find guys like that.